Why have I never encountered a Native American-style restaurant? Just like the title says. I've been all over the United States and I've never seen a North American Indian restaurant. Even on tribal lands. Why not? I'm sure there are some good regional dishes and recipes. Hit the Smithsonian Native American Museum in D.C. Brings together tastes from many different regions. Attend the New Mexico State Fair in Albuquerque. There's a whole area dedicated to indigenous culture with native vendors selling their food. Also check out Indian Pueblo Kitchen. Beyond that, a lot of restaurants have at least some native or native-inspired cuisine on their menu. Pretty common to see the Indian taco at many fast food places in New Mexico. There's a really good documentary about Native Americans and their food culture called Gather. It's definitely worth watching if you are interested in this topic. There's a cafe that serves native food at the Chickasaw Cultural Center in Oklahoma. There's one in Denver called Tokabi that gets great reviews. I also remember one of the Food Network shows visited and shot a segment. Eagle Crossing Restaurant, Warm Springs Reservation, Oregon. It's mostly typical diner fare, but they do offer fry bread, huckleberry pie, Indian-style tacos, elk buggers. Great vibe and not unusual to see patrons in tribal dress. Been on the Navajo Res many times, and there are many restaurants there, obviously smaller out-of-the-way places, that'll serve you up the kind of food you're looking for. Eating a plant-based diet myself and disliking squash doesn't give me many options personally. Because American Indians are not a monolithic culture. If you travel around places like New Mexico or Arizona, you would encounter restaurants run by locals that would be heavily influenced by their native cuisine. Iroquois, Cherokee, and Pueblo food is going to be very different because they developed in very different climates. Mexican food is a mix of Spanish and native cuisine, so you've probably already experienced it. I was at 2 this summer on our drive through New Mexico. I mean, Mexican food is Native American food, when you think about it, especially when you explore Mayan dishes or the food of the ancient Aztecs. For modern Native American cuisine, try the Navajo taco. Yum! Albuquerque, New Mexico has the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. On part of the center is a restaurant that serves amazing Native American food. Check out the Bannock House in Regina, SK, Canada. Try the bison burger. New Mexico has native restaurants. There are some, but they mostly seem to be in the southwest US. It's a damn shame too. Because there was a systemic and intentional system of cultural destruction of the native people. Do some reading about the boarding schools across the US and Canada if you want to learn more and be horrified. There's work being done now to recover some of what was lost and maintain what was saved, but it's a big project. I saw OAMNI listed below. Sean Sherman's work is really important, and I hope there are more folks like him working to bring pre-Columbian culture back to life. Wonderful question. Refreshing because it's unique. Commenting because this deserves attention. We have some in Oklahoma. This is a serious answer and not a restaurant recommendation. It probably has to do with the fact that so many Native Americans were wiped out during the colonization of America. I'm just an uneducated guy on Reddit, but this would be my guess. One of the best restaurants in St. Louis, Bulrush, specializes in Ozark food from the 1800s. They are big on ingredients Native Americans would have eaten. The chef is a 3 times James Beard nominee. He works with Seed Savers Exchange and about 30 independent farmers to grow antique seeds from that time. So while not native run, it gives you an idea of what they would have eaten at that time. Miccosukee Reservation in the Everglades has a restaurant. Pujol in Mexico City, frequently cited as one of the world's best restaurants, incorporates indigenous ingredients methods in its dishes. There are Indian taco stands all over in the Reno area. If you live in the Southwest, there's pop-up stands and food trucks for Navajo tacos and other Native American food pretty often. Genocide mostly. Oanmi in the Twin Cities, Minnesota is native cuisine and has gotten rave reviews. I've seen several around Oklahoma. And any powwow you got to will have vendors who serve some traditional things. Indian taco stands are at any powwow, most any fair or festival in Oklahoma. They're ran by natives, but I'm not sure how truly traditional Indian tacos are. Commenting because now I want to know more about Native American cuisine. You have just not realizing it. I'll have the bison burger, corn on the cob and pumpkin pie. Here in the Bay Area, we have two notable ones: Wapipa's Kitchen in Oakland and Café Olone in Berkeley. Café Olone in particular is an eye-opening experience. I'm sure there are some scattered throughout the US, but I imagine it's because most Indians and their culture were wiped out in the 1800s. People forget that Native American erasure has been happening alarmingly recently. They were still sterilizing Native girls against their will in the 70s. They're out there. But you need a reservation. In California, we just call it Mexican food. Genocide. We have them in Canada. Love me some fry bread tacos. You need a reservation. Got M in Albuquerque. Love the vegan one there. Actually saw an upscale native Indian restaurant in Quebec City a few months ago. Because of colonization and genocide. Seattle has off-the-res cafe and some other restaurants. Come down to Denver, we have Tokabi here. In the San Francisco Bay Area, there are two that I know of, the Olone Cafe and Wapipa's Kitchen. The owner, Crystal Wapipa, is Kickapoo. I've only been to the first for tea, kia porridge, and acorn brownies, but it was delicious. Everyone says great things about Wapipa's, and I just need to get off my butt and go there. Café Olone in Berkeley, California, and Wapipa's Kitchen in Oakland, California. In Berkeley, we have the Olone Cafe. They serve an entirely native menu. Co-signing Tokabi in Denver. It's delicious. Edited when I realized others mentioned it first. I suspect a lot of the dishes just got completely subsumed into regional dishes for the area, so there's not much point most of the time. A whole lot of modern dishes are based on evolutions from Native American cuisine for obvious reasons. They all use ingredients that are only native to the Americas, after all. Doesn't mean there might not be some worth making a restaurant around. They definitely exist. Sly Fox Den is near me, for example. But it does reduce a lot of the pressure to do so because it's just a subset of normal everyday food everyone eats. Define Native American cuisine. I live in New Mexico. We eat tamales, beans, corn tortillas, calabacitas, all of which are integral to New Mexican food, and all of which came from the native population. Yo, I thought this post was about the lack of Native American-style restaurants cuisine. Not a political lynching of I don't know who or what. It's getting so convoluted. A lot of Mexican food is native food, but with some Iberian influences it. The Stand in Scottsdale, Wapipa's Kitchen in Oakland, Fry Bread House in Phoenix, Hope's Fry Bread in Tempe. There's a spot in Denver that makes the fried stuffed Native American breads. It's delicious. There's an extremely fancy one in the Bay Area, I think like $300 a plate, and a small bistro in Seattle. There is a resurgence going on right now, with many natives working to revive their ancestral cultures and dishes. Often including dishes they've never had themselves, but that were described to them by elderly relatives, or new spins on traditional ingredients. Tell me you haven't been to New Mexico without telling me. Barbecue is actually indigenous in origin. New Mexican food. What most of the Southwest describes as Mexican food is basically Native American mixed with Mexican cuisine, since the two cultures are so intertwined in the state. Europeans were too busy wiping out the populations to worry about preserving the cuisine.